Okay, so now we have with us another sponsor. We have John O'Hare of Azotel, who I think is going to join me momentarily. Here he is. Hi, John.
Hello, Brian. Good morning. Thank you.
So I'll get my thanks in for the sponsorship first this time. It makes a big difference, and thank you for your support today. I was interested. I did a bit of research before the thing today, and I saw this picture of you on your boat off the coast of Ireland. There, I was wondering if it was your way of getting away from COVID.
Yes, indeed. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen very often, but we look forward to getting back out there again one of these years, you know. So,
Absolutely,
but yes,
absolutely.
now and again I'm spotted out there.
Great. Okay, well, look, thanks for talking to us. Now, you're going to be talking about simplifying WISP operations, which is obviously something really, really important out there at the moment. So I'm going to hand over to you and look forward to hearing all about it.
Very good, Brian. Thank you again for the introduction. And thanks to Dan and Cambium for the opportunity to present this today, folks. So I do have a large number of slides to go through, but we will go through them quickly. And also, if there are any questions, please put them into the chat as we go through that, and I'm sure Brian will pick up on them at the end. So, folks, I just wanted to start off by giving a little bit of background. I guess my claim to fame in this world is bringing the first canopy radio into Europe back in 2003, I believe. I know that because we had to go through the certification process. So with that, we set up a WISP here in Cork in Ireland between 2002 and 2005. And I guess one of the things that we learned while rolling out that network is, you know, whether you have 100 customers or tens of thousands of customers, it's very important to be able to manage and to automate, I guess, all the operations around the running of that ISP business. So that really is the focus of what we call the SIMPLer platform. So today, what happened in 2005 is we actually sold off the WISP business to concentrate on the software platform that is SIMPLer. Actually, between 2005 and 2008, we then rolled out a franchise model here in Ireland, and that has been very successful in bringing broadband to all rural parts. And in 2008, we then, with the help of Motorola at the time, went into Nova Scotia and Canada. And from there, we started, I suppose, rolling out the network. Today, we are in 22 countries. We have over 250 networks on the platform. And the size of those networks go from anywhere from 50 subscribers to tens of thousands of subscribers. So really, it's really about automation, and through that automation and efficiency, making you know, those operations viable, and therefore bringing broadband into rural areas. So if I may just dig into SIMPLer, the focus is, as I say, subscriber information management platform. So that's what our whole world revolves around the end customer. So what it is the single platform to essentially address all the business functions. What that means in reality is, you know, whether it's on the sales cycle or the provisioning, the accounting, no data gets entered twice across the business. So you put it into the system once, and it's there for every other department to see it. The other piece is, you know, this platform itself has been built based on the feedback from our operators. And I say they're spread across 22 countries. So with that, we get a whole variety of great ideas. And all of those have been incorporated into the software platform over the last 20 years. Final point is we spoke today about, I suppose, you know, a lot about wireless and about fiber. But in essence, the platform itself is access technology agnostic. So we've gone through the phases. If anybody remembers DSL, remember that when it was going to wipe out wireless many years ago. Well, that didn't happen. But obviously, we went through WiMAX, LTE, cable, all the various technologies. It's very easy for us to bring those into the platform because, again, it's built around this concept of the subscriber being the central entity. In terms of our deployments, we have concentrated on EMEA and going westwards to the US and North American market. So the reason why we focus, I guess, on these areas are we were able to deliver a premium, you know, service around support and training to our operators. So the software, you know, that's one piece of the puzzle, I guess. But the second part is actually being able to deliver a very good support and training around those deployments. So that's absolutely critical to the efficient running of all of our partners and operators, because ultimately their businesses depend on the operation of SIMPLer in its entirety. So what does the platform do, you might ask? Well, on this slide are, again, all the areas that you probably touch on, whether you realize it or not. So it's CRM, help desk, network monitoring, inventory management, provisioning, so on and so forth. So what we find is new operators that come to us, which basically will have been operating, over a number of years. Typically, they will have several hundred or thousands of customers. But what we find is a disparate set of systems that are in place to manage all of these functions. And with SIMPLer, the objective is to bring all that, as I say, under the one roof. So what we will do now here is we'll just go through each of these areas very quickly to give you a sense of it. And as I said, if you want to dig in more afterwards, we do have the stand available as well if people want to pop by that later. So from a CRM point of view, very simply, what we want to do is get all the information about your end customer onto a single web page. So we don't tab it. All the information is easily searched from the browser, and access to that information is controlled through the user rights. So depending on whoever is logging in, they will either see the information or not based on those priorities that they have. So if I'm an installer, I don't necessarily need to see all the accounting information, so that can be hidden. That makes it then more easy to find information as well based on whoever is logging into the system. But the key thing here is that everything about the subscriber is available on a single page. Other aspects is, if you want to add your own fields, that's possible to do through custom fields and tables. Billing and provisioning, billing and the payment process itself. So essentially, operators can design their own invoices to their own look and feel. The whole mechanism in terms of sending those out automatically or building in checks into the process, all of that is achieved through the platform configuration. The other side of it then is actually collecting the money, the most important part, right? So the key thing there is we have in excess of 35 different merchant gateways built into the platform already. So regardless of what payment method you want to use, and believe me, there are many disparate systems that are used throughout the world, we have the ability to deal with that. And the key thing really is to focus on automating the invoicing cycle and the collection of those monies. Next up is a feature that we call SAND, and it is the subscriber auto-notify throttling and disconnect. And folks, this, I guess, is the most important aspect really of the presentation, I would say. So regardless of what systems you have in place, the ability to be able to automatically turn on, turn off, and control what service is being delivered to your customer is absolutely critical to your business, and to be able to charge accordingly for that. And that is the secret ingredient of SIMPLer. So the idea here is you can set up again the parameters that how you choose, whether it's prepay, postpay, whether you want to give 2 weeks of grace period, all of that can be configured. And then the system will notify a customer that has not paid as they approach the due date in advance using SMS or emails. So for example, somebody might get an email today, say, please pay by next Sunday. And if they haven't paid by next Sunday, on Saturday, they'll get another reminder. Then on Monday morning, they would get disconnected. And basically, when they then try to reconnect to the network, they will get redirected to the end user portal. End user portal allows them to put in their payment details and get back online. And all of that is a seamless operation. Bandwidth management. So again, over time, we have different approaches to how that is done. Some is done through inline control device that we call a WIB, through Radius, through APIs, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Dispatch, install, and provisioning. Again, the process here is around scheduling, work orders, app, and then provisioning the equipment itself. So we will work with CN Maestro in terms of interfacing with it so that we can basically avail of all the automation that it brings, and then build SIMPLer on top of that. But we also work with a number of the other vendors, as is obviously the case that a number of our operators will be on different platforms. In terms of scheduling, we work with a Google Calendar. Again, it's ubiquitous. And what we do there is basically synchronize the information between SIMPLer and Google. so that no one again needs to be manually replicating that data. Network monitoring. As part of the installation process, we will be collecting information about the radios as they're installed. That allows us to build a very simple but effective network monitoring tool, and also to be able to collect stats and present those back to the CSRs or through the end user portal to the customers themselves. So all of that comes as part of the platform. End user portal, I mentioned that earlier in relation to the payment cycle, but this is your customers portal where they can go to view their history of invoices, view their usage, and change certain parameters as well associated with their account. So again, it's the whole idea here, folks, is to automate and to try and push as much as the administration as possible back onto your customer base. They prefer it because they have instant access to it through the portal, and it also means that there's much less calls coming into the operator's business itself. Maps and coverage checking. Again, a key part of what we do is track all locations. There are states associated with each customer account. So, for example, those that fail line of sight survey, for example, there's a state associated with that. Over time, this graph becomes very powerful in terms of being able to decide where to roll out, to address black spots in the coverage, etc. Also, we do have inbuilt, again, analysis tools that allows for a quick kind of scan once queries come in as to whether a customer is able to get service or not. But again, this is complementing Link Planner and the other tools that Cambium have, which are a lot more in-depth. Inventory management, mentioned that we track the install process itself or whatever, so we do have knowledge of the equipment being installed at ESM. We're able to keep key criteria around that, and then basically have all that stored in the database. We are able to track history of the device as if it's reinstalled in a new location. We have all that. We have the ability to track RMAs as well through the platform. Flexible reporting. So the system is built on CentOS. Database is PostgreSQL. All our operators have full read access to the database. So if there is any report that they need that is not already provided by the platform, they have the ability to build tools to extract that data directly from the database, should that be required. It's the exception rather than the norm, though. Hotspots, again, because we have all of the rest of the operations in the platform, we also have the ability to assist with the rollout of hotspots. Many of our operators will deploy these as part of requests that they get from the local councils or whatever. So it's something that's in addition to the core business of fixed wireless provision. So we have the ability to work around that. So we've worked on a number of projects as well in the likes of South Africa for bringing broadband to the underprivileged areas. So this slide, folks, and hopefully you will get access to all this information afterwards, is just a summary of the key areas that we walked through. Hope that makes sense so far. So the key thing to remember is, I suppose, there's no rocket science in anything that I have shown up to this point, but it's the bringing it all together that really is the secret, ingredient that makes businesses very efficient who are running the SIMPLer platform. The idea as well that what we are doing is basically bringing all the ideas, building them into the platform, so you as an operator don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, many of the operators that we deal with are below 10,000 subscribers, so it really makes no sense for them to be going off and reinventing the wheel when you get out of the box here all the tools to make that business run really efficiently. Here is just a screenshot of the mobile app. So the mobile app allows, for example, the scanning of a barcode from one of the routers when it's being installed, and that then automatically provisions and associated it with the customer account in SIMPLer. Obviously, because of the integration with Google Maps, we are able to bring in the scheduling piece. Also, the app itself is a scaled down view for the installers to pull up the key information about an install as well as the work orders. Other features include the ability to take photographs on site, and they automatically get tagged underneath the subscriber record in SIMPLer. So I guess the key thing here, in summary again, is to say that there are many advantages to running the platform if you do not have one of these already in place. But other side benefits are investor attraction. So I mentioned, when we started out in Canada, that was the first probably government-backed project that we were involved in, but we've done many, many more since then with our operators. So any investor, be it government, leasing, banks, private investors, once they see that there's a platform like SIMPLer in place that is running the business, it gives them a high degree of confidence in that operator's business to invest in it. The other side of that is, the exit side. So if in any of our operators, we have the ability to do a due diligence on that complete business within about 15 minutes, I would say. If we have all the stats in terms of any issues on the network, obviously subscriber growth, revenue growth, where the subscribers are based, network health, all of that is readily available through the reports in SIMPLer. So that's absolutely extremely powerful when it comes to valuing or transferring the business, So we're involved with that on a daily basis amongst our operators. And also, the other key aspect is if our operators are growing, again, what we are often involved with is the importation of that data into SIMPLer, and it's the equivalent of a new operator coming to us. So again, we're highly, I suppose, experienced in bringing that information into the platform and getting everything automated. Now I'll just touch on a few different types of networks that typically we come across. So the first up is very simple, network topology. So it's got a device in line that does the control, then you have backhaul, access point, and radio. So with those 4 building blocks, you can build a very simple but effective network up to 2,000 subscribers, I would say. And we've seen that done, throughout Africa in many countries. Next up is radius. Radius is the standard really used by the majority of operators, and we can instantly slot into radius controlled network. So here, basically radius acts as the delimiter between SIMPLer and the network. So again, as I say, if you have a radius control network, then it makes migration to the SIMPLer platform much easier. Also done integration with different vendors on the LTE side. Just flicking through a couple of those. And next up is fiber. We've heard mentions of that already. And obviously here in Ireland, we would be familiar as well with the NBI project. We actually have put the first customers from NBI onto the platform last week, believe it or not. So they are now integrated into SIMPLer. We also work with a number of other fiber networks, particularly in the US, in Spain, where again, the automation is fully there to turn on, turn off, and control whatever service the customers are getting through those fiber networks. In my own view, it's really the combination of fiber and wireless is the answer to bringing broadband to the rural areas. That's what we see time and time again as being the most effective strategy to roll out broadband of high quality and high bandwidth capability. So with that, I guess from the SIMPLer perspective, because we're able to work with all those access technologies, not alone does the single pane of glass extend just across the wireless portfolio of the network, but really SIMPLer is the single pane of glass that spans across all different aspects of the operator's business, be it wireless, LTE, fiber, all that comes back so that the CSRs really that are looking at the information is the single set of information that they see, and the fact that it's delivered through a different access technology, that really is pushed down in terms of if you need to dig into it, it's available to be popped on from the SIMPLer platform itself. But SIMPLer is the key that links all of the different access technologies together and is the platform on which the business runs ultimately. This is just a workflow for new operators setting up. Majority of operators, as I said earlier, will be existing operations with existing customer bases, and we have lots of skills developed over time that allows us to bring that information efficiently into the SIMPLer platform. So our own vision, I guess, is we do have competitors out there in different markets. But from where we started here in Ireland, I guess, and how the company has evolved, we probably are the one that is most diverse in terms of serving so many different countries and bringing those requirements truly into the platform. So it really is a feature-rich set of functions that are available to our operators, which makes it really the global BOSS standard for the wireless broadband industry, as I would see it. Examples of other operators in the US, we're working with a number of the electrical cooperative utilities there at the moment, who again are, bringing their members broadband through both fiber and wireless technology. So we're highly active in that market at the moment. And this is a set of just logos from different partners and companies that we work with. And with that, Brian, that is the slide. So again, thank you folks for that quick run through. Sorry if I went through that too quickly or whatever, but as I say, if there are any questions, Brian, maybe you have those now, or we can talk about them again during the trade show slot later.
Yeah, John, I was just really interested in the sheer international scope of what you've managed to grow and achieve. It's awe-inspiring, really interesting. Had I got a cheesy comment about, shouldn't your slogan be making life simpler? Because that seems to be what you do for operators, but that's far too cheesy,
yes.
I guess.
Yeah, no, we take anything. So you might see that changing, but it's true. I mean, that is ultimately what our objective is.
With all that experience, what's kind of the best advice that you would give a service provider today?
Yeah, very good question. To be honest, one of the things that we did back in the early days was we were choosing different vendors to go with when we started rolling out the franchise model here in Ireland. So I remember talking to a number of them, and I used to work in Motorola previously, so I was biased. So we actually chose the Canopy platform. And I know Motorola has evolved into Cambium networks, but it's just important to say, we've worked with many different technologies. We've seen them come and go over the last 20 years, different vendors, and so on and so forth. We've heard many folks regret that they hadn't moved on to Canopy or Cambium networks earlier, particularly with EP&P. So that's a regret that I often hear from the operators, those that had tried out different technologies and got stuck with them and got delayed. And when they moved across to using Cambium, it's a night and day experience for them. I've never heard one of my earlier operators come to us to say that they regret getting onto this platform. So that's one piece of advice I would give generally, and that's genuine. Second piece of advice is in relation to how the business is run. So the key thing that we do with SIMPLer, and you can achieve it with or without the platform, is the ability to link the billing with the provisioning piece. That one-to-one linkage is absolutely critical. And it amazes us every time we see an operator coming to us that don't have that linkage in place. So what that means is, the bigger operators call it revenue assurance, but in reality, what it means is if you've got more than 100 customers and you don't have a linkage between the billing system and your provisioning system, you're going to have customers that are not getting the service that they're paying for. So they're either getting more than what they're paying, or they're not getting it at all, or you're missing collecting from those customers. You scale that up to 1,000, scale that up to 5,000. That is a significant loss of revenue that one is just wasting away or whatever. Putting a system in place that gives the customer what they're paying for, your customer actually likes that or whatever. I mean, the customers appreciate it. So that would be the other key bit of advice that I would give operators. So number one, go with Cambium networks. Number two, make sure you've got linkage in place between your billing systems and your provisioning in terms of turning on, turning off, and controlling what service the customers are getting.
The other question I had was actually, what's the most common mistake they make? I guess is it not having Cambium equipment by the sounds of it?
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. Another classic one is people with virtualization, and a lot of folks think that once you put a server onto a virtualized environment, that it basically magically does things that nothing happen that wouldn't happen on a running bare metal. So we've seen operators, on radius-based networks, it's critical that the radius servers are up all the time. So that's why there is a primary and a standby radius. But we have seen more than once where the primary and the standby radius server are put onto the one virtualized environment with the one common hardware underneath them. Common hardware fails and both radius servers goes down. So that's something that you also want to avoid.
Okay, well, John, thank you very much for your time this morning. Again, thank you for the sponsorship. Can I remind the viewers to take part and visit your mini site? And it's going to be break time in a moment, but for the time being, John, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, folks, for listening, and bye for now.